Hello everyone, and welcome to the widget styling lecture. So in this lecture we're going to learn about the various ways to style widgets. So as you can see here, I have downloaded the widget styling corresponding notebook, and I went ahead and ran the first cell, IPyWidgets as widgets, and ipython.display import display here. So there's basic styling, and the widgets distributed with IPython can be styled with these following traits: width, height, various colors, borders, widths, and styles, and also the font, style, weight, size, and family. So you can mess around with the width and height, the basic background color, the border colors, and then the font parameters as well. So for example, here's an example of what a button widget can be styled as. So we can see we've set button equal to widgets.button, and then we've took description, set it equal to hello world. And then we could set up all these parameters here as far as describing how it's going to be stylized. So you can add these parameters to most of the widgets available to you, and you can start styling them. Okay, so you can see here, I've set the width equal to 100, height is equal to 2em. Em is a valid HTML unit of measurement. So having a knowledge of CSS and HTML will definitely help you understand styling here a little better. And then we've set color to lime. You can also set colors by name. And then we've also set background and border color. And then I'm going to display the button. So here it is displayed. And let's go ahead and change some stuff around so we can make sure it's actually taking effect. I'll set the border color equal to red. I'll set this color equal to green. I will change the description to say change. And now if we run it, you can see there's some slight changes there. You can also select colors by the color code, or again, just straight text. Now, not every single name will work, but most common color names will as strings. All right, let's go ahead and close that. So I also want to mention parent-child relationships. So to display, for example, widget A inside of widget B, then widget A must be a child of widget B. And widgets that can contain other widgets have what's known as a children attribute. So one widget is the child of another. And this attribute can be set using keyword arguments in the widgets constructor or after the construction. So calling display on an object with children will automatically display the children. So let's look at what we have here in the cell. Again, I've imported display, and I created a float slider, a text box, and then set a variable called container called widgets.box and set a parameter called children equal to these two widgets here. So note how I'm passing in the list of the widgets themselves to this children equals under box. And then I'm setting, using the property names of this container, border underscore color, style, width. So right now I'm looking at red dotted width is 3. Let's go ahead and change that to 5, and then I'm going to display this container. So what's going to happen is this container contains both of these children, this float range and the string. So if I display it, here we see this container. The container itself is only this border here, and it contains this slider and this text box. So after this parent is displayed, children can be added to the parents after it's been displayed. So note here, I have container equals widgets.box, set the container border styles, display container, and now I'm going to say integer range is equal to widgets int slider, and I'm saying container.children is equal now to this single item list int underscore range. And if I run this here, I've altered it to just have a single integer slider. Okay, so if you need to display a more complicated set of widgets, there's specialized containers that you can use. So to display multiple sets of widgets, you can use an accordion or a tab in combination of one box per set of widgets, which I'm about to show you below. And these quote-unquote pages of the widgets are their children. So to set the title of the pages, use set underscore title. Let me show you what I mean by all that. So here I have an accordion example, and then below we have a tab widget example. So in the accordion example, I have two separate widgets that follow the same format: a name, zip, page, and then we have a text, a bounded integer text, and then a box containing the two children. Same here, a box containing two children of name2, zip2. First one is just a text with description, location. Second one is just a description with zip, and it can take in a number. So we have a string text, an integer text, and then a box that has them both as children. And then in order to put these together, I have the accordion feature from widgets, and I'm going to pass it children page 1, page 2, which are essentially these boxes here. So you can see I almost have like a children within children here. And I'm going to go ahead and display the accord or the accordion here, and I'm going to set the titles from and to. So if I just run this, I have this little bit of an accordion function here with the from, location, and the to. And then I can go ahead and fill stuff out. So I can say my location is San Francisco, zip code, let's say 90210, whatever. And then I can click here on to, and due to the accordion structure, it'll pull up to, and then say I want to go to Los Angeles or wherever, and my zip code is 789, whatever, 999, doesn't matter. Okay, so this is what the accordion structure looks like when you're trying to stack children together. You can click them open, so it's opening and unfolding like an accordion, and you can do it for both. All right, so let's go ahead and close that. And then we have the tab widget option, which you'll notice here I have a text, name, color is dropped down, page 1 is a box. Here I have an integer slider with radio buttons and a box. Take both these page 1 and page 2, which they themselves have children, remember that. I have a padding option here, parameter I should say. And then set tabs equal to widgets.tab with these two as children. And if I go ahead and run that, you'll notice I get something that basically looks like web tabs. Here are the children stacked in each tab themselves. Okay, so go ahead and read through this, these two cell blocks, make sure you understand them. But basically what's happening here is for this first section, we're passing in children to this box. And then in the second section, I'm putting these two boxes together. In the first section with an accordion style, and then the second section with a tab widget style. So that way if you want multiple widgets everywhere, you can organize them with either the accordion or the tab formats. Finally, alignment. So alignment allows us to affect how the width is assigned. So let's take a closer look at that. So let's go ahead and see a few examples of how this auto alignment works and if we need to fix things. So in this case, the text of the label is always right aligned and the widget's always left aligned. So if I run this cell, we can see here that the text has been right aligned and the widgets themselves have been left aligned. And if a label is longer than the minimum width, so you can see here this very last one has too long, it's widget's going to be shifted to the right here. So I'll have to fix that like so. All right, if a description is not set for the widget, then the label is not displayed. And then it fills up everything here. So you can mess around with the alignments, or you can also use what are known as flex boxes. So we can use these flex boxes, which are flexbox, hbox, and vbox widgets, to align our widgets. So for example, if we want to display them vertically, we can just actually by default, it'll display them vertically. So here I'm almost doing like a little list comprehension of 3 different buttons with the description 0, 1, 2. And I click them themselves, and they've been automatically assigned to be vertical. If I want to do them horizontally, I can use .hbox with widgets, pass those buttons that list the buttons as children. And here we've assigned them horizontally. And then for visibility, if we want to hide widgets, so the visible property of widgets can be used to hide or show widgets that have already been displayed. we can set it to true, the widget's going to be displayed. If you set it to false, the widget is hidden, and then the empty space where the widget should be is collapsed. And then if you just put none, the widget is hidden and the empty space is still going to be shown. So here I've made 3 widgets with LaTeX, just first line, second line, third line. It's just text here. And if I set w2.visible, so that's the one that says second line, equal to none, you'll notice we still have a gap there. If I set visible equal to false, notice how it gets collapsed. And if I set it equal to true, it comes back. So the main thing to know here is that none will still leave a blank space there, but false will allow you to collapse those widgets. So finally, what I want you to check out by downloading this notebook is this example of a form being rendered, which conditionally displays widgets depending on the state of other widgets. So I'll break it down real quickly for you, but I want you to really download this and play around with it yourself, edit it, see what you can change about it, see how it actually works. The best way to learn these things is just by messing around with them. So the first thing we have here is a vertical box and then 2 texts for first and last name. So we have the form, first and last. Then we have a student variable, which is just a checkbox with a description student. Currently the value is false, so you'll be able to check that true or false. Then we have the school info, which is an object with a vertical box of children consisting of a text and then an integer text. So for a school and then for the 0 to 12th grade. And then finally, we have widgets.text as a pet, so whether or not this person has a pet. And then from the form.children, so this very first vertical box, we put it all in. We set it equal to the first, last, student, school info, and pet. So go back up and make sure you review how to assign children so this line here makes sense to you. And after that, we're going to display the form. Okay. On one of these, we call onStudentToggle. So we have a little function here. So it takes in if value, schoolinfo.visible equals true, else schoolinfo.visible equals false, and then student on trait change. So if you go back here to student, this checkbox, when this is changed here, we'll pass the value onto the onStudentToggle. So if I run this, I basically have a little cell here where I can say, put in the student's name. If they're a student, notice stuff gets toggled here. So the school info is now visible, school and grade, or whatever numbers you want. Okay. So make sure you really play around with this. Try making your own form. Maybe try putting this into a tab or something like that. Really play around with it and have fun with it. So we're almost there. On the next one, we've already seen, the next lecture, we'll dive further into a more customized example of a widget. But this is basically our first, putting it all together. This cell here is our first example of an entire widget put together. So really make sure you download this and play around with it. I purposefully here didn't go line by line to make sure that you have the time to really explore and learn all about this for yourself. Okay, so just to review, we've gone over widget styling, basic styling, fancy boxes, such as accordion and tab widget, basic alignment, how it automatically works, and how we can use flex boxes to change that if we need to. Visibility, how we can make stuff either none, false, or true as far as visibility is concerned. And then a basic example of our first real widget. All right, I'll see you at the next and final lecture for this section, where we're going to be making our own custom widget. Okay, thanks, and I'll see you there.